Sarah knew Rebecca's babe was dead as soon as the head slid free, from the look on Mistress June's face. She was not so long into her midwifery apprenticeship, but she'd learned what that look meant early. And by the time the first arm was out, it was obvious. This was not a baby meant to survive in this world. It had gills on its neck and a neat line of scales down its back like the hooks up the spine of a good woman's stay. It would have been a problem anyway, had it lived. There was nothing to be done for these ones. No way to hide them. Outside, the night wind howled and shook the shutters, trying to claw its way into the room they'd finally managed to make warm. Steam rose off the pile of rags on the floor, all of them used to sop up the blood and vomit and slick fluids of the past hours. She knew that some of the blood had surely made it between the floorboards and was likely dripping down into the print shop below, where the husband waited for someone to tell him the child had come into the world. The thumping of the press reverberated up through the ceiling beams and Sarah's knees as she knelt on the floor. The air was tangy on her tongue. Here, on Fleet Street, everything stank of iron ink and sweat. The ink and the blood together made the air taste like she was licking a farthing coin, and despite her training, acid rose in the back of her throat. "Sarah," Mrs. June said, "get me some clean cloths." She slid 2 fingers behind the baby's back, one arm free, but the other shoulder was caught. Rebecca hissed when Mrs. June pressed inside her, but she had no strength anymore for wailing. "We had some trouble with her others," Mrs. June had said before they arrived. "Very narrow pelvis. Be prepared." Sarah did as she was bid. By the time she returned from the front room, where the pot of water boiled over the fire and the mother's mother and aunts waited, Mrs. June had the rest of it birthed. "He hasn't cried." Rebecca had 3 babes before this one. She panted, but her eyes were glassy with pain and exhaustion. The other 3 were girls, and it was well known that her husband wished a boy for an apprentice. Mrs. June took the cloths from Sarah, clipped the baby's cord with a sharp knife she kept for the purpose, and wrapped it up with a practised hand so all but its face was hidden. The mother tried to rise from the birthing chair, but she still had one leg propped on Mrs. June's shoulder, and she was too tired after 9 hours of labouring to coordinate herself.